Hello, everyone. This is Thomas Pepin, NHL Talk. I'm Thomas Pepin, and let's talk about the NHL. So, today is the final part of the NHL expansion series where we had a look at failed franchises and potential new markets to see if any of them would or could conceivably succeed in the next NHL expansion. And that included looking at ones that actually, well, were reattempted and so far have succeeded. And those were kind of useful when it came to comparing some of the potential markets and failed franchises. So, anyways, so that's basically what we've done. And today, what we're doing is summarizing it, and then I'm going to give my opinion on, well, from two perspectives. So, first perspective, what's probably best for the league, and as a result, most likely to happen in the next NHL expansion. And then, second, my opinion or my preference of which franchises should exist. And it'll be more subjective than objective, but nonetheless, I think for the most part, they're really going to be objective as well, just in a different way. So, anyways, that's the plan. So, just a second to pull up the spreadsheet we've been using. And one more thing. All right. Good. Okay, so to recap, well, actually, I should pull that up. Just give me one more sec here. I think I have it written down in here. I do not. Well, in any case, I don't think it's of critical importance. So what I was going to look up is the ones that I said didn't make the cut, but I don't think it's too critical to go over those. All right, so I should get a document pulled up here. Give me one sec. Oh, maybe I do have something. Give me one sec. Might have been something I did offline. I don't know. Oh no, it's the original document that we used to plan the whole series. So since I don't really need that anymore, I can just reuse it here. Cool. Okay, so first what we'll look at is or wait, that's a better way to put it. And then cool. So as you can see, I always mention this, or I try to mention this on most streams, is everything's done on the spot, no prep work except for the subject. So as you can tell, I'm making this on the spot, and as a result, sometimes it takes more time than just spouting things off, but it's good to be organized as well. Okay. So we'll start with the league's likely preference. And then, so of course, we're not going to recap the teams that are back. So, for example, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see Minnesota, Colorado, Winnipeg. Some of those other ones we included for reference comparison's sake. Another one that you could argue is a second attempt is Columbus. Any others? I think that's it, really. So, yeah, so we'll talk about them, of course, but in terms of ranking them, obviously it's not necessary because they already exist here. So, okay. So, yeah, I'm just going to kind of do it on the fly and make my choices, and then from there, I might adjust the order. So, okay, so for the league's likely expansion preference and rank ordering them, I think the number one preference is probably going to be... Houston was the first thing that came to mind, but I just want to make sure that that is, in fact, correct. Yeah, I believe so. So in all likelihood, it is going to be Houston is going to be the first choice. Now, well, we'll get to my preference after, so I won't talk about anything my preference. So the reason is that Dallas has been successful, so we'll just go back. So, I mean, they've had some dips when their performance isn't as good, but for the most part, they're towards capacity. A U.S. market, as I've mentioned previously, is way more valuable because of local industry, corporate money, sponsorships, purchases or rentals of luxury boxes, getting fans into the arena, TV deals. There's a whole bunch of reasons why the U.S. is preferred. It's difficult to get the wording right. They're most profitable, and then in effect the league's, well, as a business decision, you should choose the most profitable option. It's obvious. Now the problem is that there's fluctuations, and so short term it might not be profitable, or it could be profitable short term, dip if there's a dip in performance, and then go back up when performance is good, and then be like a roller coaster. So as you can see here with Dallas as an example, I mean, it's relatively stable, but still there's, fluctuations of up to 4,000 in capacity difference, or attendance level decreases by 4,000. So what is that? A bit less than a quarter, maybe 20% dip in of attendance. Sorry, and I mean that's not. You want to avoid that, of course, and that kind of stuff doesn't really happen in a place like Toronto. So you take them, they're at capacity no matter what. No matter how good or bad the team is, they're at capacity. So that's what you want in an ideal world. That's what you'll get in a Canadian market, typically, at least in the strongest of markets. So Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver is borderline, but pretty much the same. And then from there, the rest are not as strong, but still, relatively more consistent for attendance versus American locations, even in the cases of, so as we saw with Chicago. Chicago is one of the strongest markets, and so you can see when their performance was really bad, they really dipped, and then they've been at capacity as of late. So it's just U.S. markets are tough. I think in the long run, when you actually smooth out all the waves, you probably are dramatically more profitable in a U.S. market than in a Canadian market, even though your attendance is not as consistent. So anyway, so that's kind of the justification. Now, this is using my intuition. I don't actually know this as factual, but if you take a look at team valuations, it kind of proves the point. So, and then so the weakest of markets are the ones with the least consistent attendance and most fluctuations, as well as the smallest markets. So like a Carolina, a Florida, so Florida Panthers. Who else? Buffalo, although the attendance isn't that bad. So things like that. So really, it's market size kind of tells you how good a U.S. market's going to be in terms of valuation. Whereas in Canada, you're pretty much getting consistent, all things considered, attendance. But the problem is just the money's not there, even with good attendance. So anyways, so going back to the original point is that considering all factors, you would prefer to have a U.S. team over a Canadian team. So as a result, that's why we have Houston, at least to start, as the number one choice. From there, that's where it gets tricky. So Houston, as we saw, so the population base for the surrounding area is 7.1 million people, which is very strong. That's kind of the largest that you're really going to get for a new market. So of the ones that don't have a team, Houston's number one. Atlanta's not far behind by about 1.1 million, but it's the largest market without a team currently in the US. So it makes obvious sense that that's going to be your first choice. And given Dallas's track record and the distance between Houston and Dallas, it's a separate market. In all likelihood, it's going to perform similar to Dallas, and it's going to perform well. So that's the justification there. From there, that's where it gets, like I said, a bit more difficult to choose. Now, in my opinion, my first instinct is to go with another California team, even before a Canadian team, for the reasons that I've already mentioned, which simplified is there's more money in the US. So another team in California, given that they've all done relatively well and they're all relatively stable, it would make sense to me to go with California as the next option. Likewise for the rinks, we've already discussed how what's the name of the city? That's not it. Where is it? Sacramento. Okay, so so we've already spoken about the California Seals where they were previously, which was in Oakland. Oakland doesn't currently have a rink or a suitable rink for an NHL franchise. The only places with an arena that is suitable for an NHL team, and I didn't look into the specific details, but basically if you can house an NBA team, you can house a hockey team is typically the way it works. So so as a result, if you would want to put together a new rink, Oakland geographically is the best option of the next places to expand into, because it's situated between I just said it, Sacramento and San Francisco. So to have a new market, to have all of those within close proximity, it makes sense. Also, it's geographically separate from, what's the team up there? San Jose, I believe. Give me a sec to double check. I'm nearly certain, but I don't want to get it wrong. Yeah, San Jose. So as you can see on the map towards the top, well, where is it? It's not even labeled. Okay, so right across the water from San Francisco is a good spot, and then Sacramento's a bit further away, but it's close enough. So in that case, like I was saying, it's Oakland would be best, but Sacramento has an arena for a basketball team. San Francisco has an arena for a basketball team. So those two require the least amount of investment, so they make the most sense business-wise. And based on that, probably the best choice is San Francisco, just because of accessibility. But Sacramento gets into a different kind of market. It's more northern. If I had to take a guess, maybe it's more suitable for growing hockey in like minor hockey and things like that. So to get young kids playing and to develop the sport in the state, it kind of makes sense. I think for the northern side, this is just intuition. I don't know if this is factual, but so really it's a coin toss between the two. Like I said, just because of accessibility, I'd probably choose San Francisco. But in an ideal world, if they had money, Oakland would be best. So we'll say San Francisco. So San Francisco is probably their second best option. Part of the problem, though, just to keep in mind, is that if they expand twice into the West, then, well, it would be what do they call it? Realignment for the East. A team from currently in the West would go over to the East. Who that would be is a good question. Let's have a look. So that would probably be Nashville or Chicago. Ooh, that's tough. I was gonna say Chicago going over because of proximity to the other teams, but Nashville's further east, at least based on this map. And I kind of like the idea of spacing it out so that the East there's more geographic coverage of the East. Because there's like a no man's land in the South for the U.S. So to have Nashville there, I think it's a good idea. But that's just my opinion. In any case, you would either have realignment or the alternative would be to have another team in the East. And on that note, probably, and I'm saying probably because I don't know for certain what they would want to choose, the next most profitable or best business decision for the NHL is probably the next team in the Greater Toronto Area, or GTA for short. In all likelihood, that would be Hamilton. It could be Mississauga. It could be another team in Toronto. But just for simplicity's sake, we'll say Hamilton. So that's probably the next choice. And to be honest, it could be a coin flip between San Francisco and Hamilton. For the NHL's, for simplicity for the NHL, maybe it would make sense to do Houston, Hamilton, or Houston, Toronto, whatever it would be. But I don't know the details of costs of, the cost effects of realignment. So it makes it difficult for me to say, because San Francisco is probably more profitable and probably more preferable for the U.S. or for the NHL because it's in the U.S. So it's really tough to say, but in all likelihood, Hamilton's probably third place if I had to take a guess, but it's hard to say. And then after that, although Montreal's, so in terms of the strongest markets for hockey fan bases, it's probably Hamilton and then a second team in Montreal, but it doesn't seem like they would do that. And then another alternative other than Montreal would be Quebec City. And something I spoke about with my dad, and I feel is the case, and the reason it is relevant to my dad is because he was born in Quebec City, and he argues that the NHL is averse to or against, maybe not publicly but privately, to the province of Quebec because it's a different language. So if I had to take a guess, they're probably trying to avoid Quebec City And also in that case, Montreal, in all likelihood, would be bunched in that for a second franchise, although it probably could support another franchise. So it's probably neither of those, even though Quebec probably should be one of the choices towards the top of the list. But because of that, now it's a question of which is the next strongest U.S. market, and that's a tough one. Could be Hartford. Could be Milwaukee. Hartford's probably the best one because of, well, for one, it's a very strong hockey market, and second, the population base that surrounds it. I would probably say Hartford would be the next best. I know there's been a lot of talk about Kansas City, and I think it's a very bad business decision. Now, they've tried Atlanta twice, and there's rumblings of them going for it again, which feels crazy to me. But I think the best business decision is probably Hartford next. Connecticut. Hey, I got it right. Now, if that's true or not, it's difficult to say. So what I could argue is that it goes Houston. It could even be Atlanta, then Kansas City, or Kansas City, then Atlanta, then San Francisco. It's super tough to say. I'm just guessing and using, because my background's in business consulting, and I mean, I would never recommend Kansas City or Atlanta again, not in any time frame close to now. So Hartford, I would say, but it's really tough to say. I should probably do a third. Let's split this up into three groupings of or three rankings. Actually, let's see. Oops. So I should actually correct myself. And so I was doing business decisions. I'm not doing what the NHL does. And so maybe I'm not doing the list right. So what it should actually be, so their likely choices are, and this is unfortunate, but why is this? So it's probably Houston 1. Atlanta 2. Kansas City is in which state? This one's confusing because it's on the border there. Missouri. Kansas City probably 3. What is this thing doing? Then fourth is probably Hamilton. Yeah, probably still, and then San Francisco or whatever, California was probably fifth. So if I had to take a guess what the NHL's probably going to do is Houston first, try Atlanta again second, Kansas City third, Hamilton, Toronto, whatever, GTA fourth, and then San Francisco fifth. If I had to take a guess. Now, again, I have no idea what the NHL is going to do because the NHL is crazy. Now, in terms of best business decisions, I should move this over to this side just so you can see it better. And then move this over here. One sec. Okay, and then, yeah, going back to best business decisions, I'd say it's probably Houston, San Francisco, Hamilton, Hartford. Then what after that? See, this one's tough. I'd probably say it's a coin toss between Milwaukee, another team in Montreal, Quebec City. You could maybe argue Atlanta. I just really feel like Atlanta would fail in a third attempt. I really hope they don't try it. So it's really tough to choose between the rest. Best business decision, I'd probably say it's oh man, it's a coin toss. I would say between Quebec City and Montreal, probably. Of the two, I'd go with Quebec because it's a unique market, like it's a separate market. So that's what I think. Whether or not that's true, it's super tough to say. Just based on everything that we've gathered here, it feels like, I mean, Milwaukee's right there too. Because the concern with Milwaukee is that their attendance is probably going to fluctuate. It's not going to be as consistent as Quebec City. No, you know what? I'm going to change my mind here. It's Milwaukee's probably the best. And it's just because it's in US dollars. It should be a strong market. And it's, even though the attendance is probably going to be worse than Quebec City or Montreal, a second team in Montreal, just because it's US dollars, it's probably the better business decision. I think the only Canadian market that really is valuable and strong would be another one in the GTA. So that's what my gut tells me. Whether or not it's true, again, you need to do the full analysis like the league does and would do for an expansion team. But yeah, that's my best guess. And we might go back to this, but we'll leave it there. So now, just as a hockey fan, a hockey purist is the phrase that I used previously. Hockey fan or markets with strong hockey fan bases should have teams, and that's my opinion. Now, I still will factor in the business decisions. So, as an example, to be honest, to start, I would choose Houston, Texas. It does make the most sense. Population-wise, it makes the most sense. Dallas has done fine. Growing the league, it makes the most sense because now you're getting into, I believe it's the most southern. choice. I believe it's south of Dallas. Yeah, so it's south of Dallas. Also, you're getting towards the south, as people call it, the south. So maybe eventually you could get into things like Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma. By getting into that market, it could. Well, I mean, Dallas is closer to Oklahoma, but it could help grow the game in the South. I just think it really makes a lot of sense, money wise, market size wise, uh, Well, I already said location, didn't I? Anyway, so it just makes the most sense. I really think that Houston should probably be the next choice. Now, even though it's not what I want, it's probably what I'd prefer just for the league. It makes sense because you got to do good business decisions too. So I'd say Houston, Texas, number one. From there, that's a good question. From there, I would probably choose Hartford. And even though I know that a team would be better fan base wise in Toronto, Montreal, Quebec, and all that, I just think the region should have a team. The population base is very strong. It just makes a lot of sense to me. Also, then realignment's not going to be required. You'll have Houston and then Hartford in the East. So that's what I would want. Next, I'd probably say the next Toronto team. So Hamilton makes the most sense to me. Then after that, you'd probably want to do West again. The California team probably makes the most sense. Or Milwaukee. You know what? No, let's go with Milwaukee next. And then after that, San Francisco, I'd probably say. And then I'll do a sixth for mine because I want to have no realignment required. And then so another team in the East, I would say Quebec City, hands down. Now, I think that's it. Now, what I'll do is go through them again just to make sure I didn't make the wrong choices. So, to summarize, so the likely order the league's going to expand in, which I think is unbelievably stupid, but the league's not always smart in their decisions. So, Houston's probably first. Atlanta, they're probably going to try again. And it could succeed, but it's not going to be a good market. I think it's a bad decision. But they're probably going to go for Atlanta next. Kansas City probably after that. Similar rationale to Atlanta. It's just a big city, big population base, and then they think that it's going to be a good decision, but it's probably not a good business decision. And then a Toronto team probably after that. And then San Francisco, so another California team. So San Francisco, Sacramento, or Oakland would be probably next up there. That's if I had to take a guess. So going into the best business decisions, I think they don't They're probably not going to do Hartford because the market's kind of smaller, even though the fan base is stronger. They're probably not going to do that. Milwaukee, same thing, except Milwaukee's a smaller fan base, but a stronger fan base, you could say. Not in comparison to Connecticut, but in comparison to other regions. So I just don't think they're going to go with those. I don't think Quebec City's on the list because they're French and it's not that big of a market. So that's what I think they'll probably do. Now, financially, it's probably Houston's the first best option. San Francisco, Hamilton, really it's a coin toss, to be honest. San Francisco, because it's a U.S. market, there's more money. Also, it's geographically separate. San Francisco or Sacramento. So it makes sense. And the population's really good. So just financially, I think it would be probably better off than Hamilton. But it's, they're probably about the same. Definitely Houston, I'd have above both of them. Hartford over Milwaukee because of the population base. Milwaukee's a strong hockey market, so it's next after that. And both Hartford and Milwaukee over Quebec City because although there's probably a stronger, or there is a stronger fan base, just financially it's probably not going to be as strong compared to those two markets. And then finally, my preference, Houston, Texas, it just makes the most sense, even though it's not, I wouldn't say it's my preferred one, but just for the league's sake, it's probably the best option, and I have to choose it first. Hartford, Hamilton, really it doesn't matter. You know what, I'm going to change my mind here. Just because of the fan base strength, I think we're going to put Hamilton above Hartford. So we'll change that. But really it's pretty much the same. U.S. market's got more money. Hamilton's going to be stronger. Toronto's got enough money that it should be better than Hartford, but it's a coin toss in my opinion. Milwaukee after that. Now I want to make sure that is the right call. Let's go back to some data here. So we'll look at hockey registration. So as a percentage of the population, it's right up there. Now we're going to kind of disregard North Dakota is too small. Alaska is too small. Minnesota has a team. Vermont's too small. Massachusetts has a team. That's where Hartford gets into that market as well, which makes a lot of sense. It's super, super strong. That's why I really think Hartford should have a team. Montana's too small. Maine's too small. New Hampshire's too small. Also, all those markets are kind of Hartford similar. They might not be in proximity closest, but they might. The fan bases might choose them over Boston, just to be different than Boston. So, anyways, just a thought. But so all those markets don't make sense. Michigan has a team, and then Wisconsin's right up next. And Connecticut's right behind that. Connecticut, like I said, just geographically it makes more sense because there's all those small markets close by that could become fan bases. And just New York City, all that stuff is really, really close by. So that's why Hartford's ahead of everywhere else. And then so as a result, next up is there's no real good choice other than Milwaukee unless we're talking about just population bases. That's where you'd be considering Atlanta, San Bernardino, San Francisco, Oakland, Sacramento, San Diego, Baltimore, Orlando, San Antonio. I mean, there's a lot of different population options, but it's just that the hockey fan base is not strong enough in all those smaller ones because we start to get into populations that are just not. So like we've already established that Charlotte, North Carolina is not that strong, and their valuation is one of the lowest. And so once you're starting to get into that size, it just doesn't make sense. It has to be a huge market for it to be a good first option. And then the smaller markets, because the fan base is going to be stronger, should probably be the next choices. And so for those reasons, that's why I'd say Houston, San Francisco, Hamilton, Hartford, and then Milwaukee. I really think that's what the league should do. It's kind of similar to my choices, which is what we'll talk about next. So Houston first, it just makes the most sense business-wise, so you have to go with that. Hamilton, likewise, makes the most sense business-wise. And if you go back to that stream, if New York can sustain 3 franchises, Toronto, in the way I argued, could sustain 3 franchises, and at the very least, they need to have a second one. So that's why number 2. Hartford, for the reasons I've already said. Milwaukee, same thing. San Francisco, just because it's not that strong of a hockey market, I have it next after. You could flip it with Milwaukee, Hartford, but like I have in the business decision rankings. But I just think just because of hockey fan base, it shouldn't be ahead of those. And really, I wish Quebec City would be higher, but I can't justify it. It's a very small market. The money's not going to be good enough compared to the other options. Canada already got back Winnipeg Jets. And Winnipeg is a pretty, no offense to Winnipeg, it's a pretty weak market. And it doesn't look super strong. It could fail again, and in which case it's probably not going to get a team back for a very long time if it would. So if you're giving Winnipeg a team, I don't think you can justify getting into Quebec City because it's just so small. Very unfortunate because it really should have a team, but I can't do it. But it's on the list. So anyway, so I think that's it. I think thinking through it, that's what I want. Those are how I would rank them for the different reasons I've said. And and so in all likelihood, it's going to go with the NHL's likely order, but I hope they go with the better business decisions and go with that list. But we'll see. So anyways, I think we'll end it there. And that kind of summarizes the whole series. If you like the stream, hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe, turn on notifications. Otherwise, channel homepage has upcoming streams. Timing is going to be different. As you saw, I adjusted the time for today a couple times. So today was 4:15 p.m. Eastern. The start time is probably going to be somewhere between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. in all likelihood for the days that I do stream. If you take a look at the channel homepage, that has the scheduled upcoming streams, and so I think the next one I have is for Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. What day is that? Yeah, so I have it for Wednesday, and then I think I'm not going to be doing I currently have it for Saturday. I think I'm going to flip it to the following Monday, but we'll see about that. So anyways, just keep looking at the channel homepage for upcoming streams. That'll give you an idea. Likewise, if I change the timing, just check right before the stream if the timing's changed, and that'll tell you if I've adjusted it or canceled it, moved it to a different day. But I don't think I'm going to be canceling more streams unless I get sick again or something. But yeah. So anyways, and if you go back to the previous stream, so from Saturday, that'll tell you at the beginning of the stream I went over upcoming changes to the series or to this channel, different series I'm going to be introducing soon and all that stuff. Just go back to that at the beginning of the stream to hear all that. Otherwise, it'll be announced on the channel as it comes up. So just look forward to some new stuff in a month or two. Probably during the playoffs, maybe after the playoffs. It all depends on how development of that stuff comes. So otherwise, I'm super pumped for the playoffs. I can't wait. I have a whole chunk of money on bet on teams and stuff. So for me, that makes it extremely exciting. Also, humble brag, I've gotten my predictions right for the past, I think it's 4 years in a row. And when I say right, the reason why I did quotations is because I bet on multiple teams. There's a strategy I have that's worked, and I've done very well from the way that I've strategized my betting. So that makes it extremely exciting for the playoffs. Now, what you'll see in my recap just before the playoffs with my predictions, I wasn't perfectly accurate, as I never am, because it's extremely difficult to get anything right. I'll explain in that stream why, but I have a chunk of my teams with good money on them and good returns in the playoff spot, so it's really exciting for me. And because of the unknowns, so for example, in the West, I don't have money on many teams, that I'm really banking on the good teams to do well, but we'll see how that shakes out. But really super excited for the playoffs. I hope you guys are too. It's going to be super competitive, I think. I'm really looking forward to it. But anyways, it's off topic, but I'm just super pumped. And it came to mind. So, yeah, finally, any comments, leave them in the comments. Suggestions, same thing. Especially topic suggestions. That's one reason why I'm changing the topics, the schedule, the different series I'm going to be doing on the channel, because coming up with unique topics every single day has been extremely challenging. Thankfully, I've had series where they continue on for, well, in this case, this series was 18 parts, so that takes 18 days of the season, and I have Sundays off all the time, so that cuts off one more day. But I mean, it's been extremely difficult to come up with topics, unique topics that other people aren't talking about over the span of the season, and so I just really can't sustain that for the infinite future of this channel. However long I'm going to keep this channel going, hopefully it goes well and it stays around forever. But yeah, it's been super, super tough. So if you have any suggestions for topics, please leave them in the comments. Not in the chat, but in the comments. Because, yeah, that'll really help for me to keep coming up with things. But anyways, the way that the whole schedule is going to shake out for the off season and next year, I've made it so I don't need to come up with many topics because I've got different annual series that I'm going to continue, and it fills up all the time. Uh, so I'm going to be okay, but like I said, if you can come up with topics and share them, I would really appreciate that. So that's it. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the series. If you are wondering about my choices and the justification, go back to each stream to have a look. And if you want to get to a point where you don't see all the work that explains the choices, but where I kind of summarize anyways, if you go to my shorts that I create, it'll timestamp all the portions of the stream that are conclusions and summaries and stuff like that. So then you can chop off the portion of where you watch all the work that I do at the beginning of the stream. So that's a good way to go back and see the summaries if you want more details on those. So that's it. So once again, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys on Wednesday with a topic that I know, but I'm not going to announce yet. I'll put that up probably today or tomorrow. So anyways, so tune in on Wednesday, probably 3 p.m. Eastern, but it'll tell you on the channel homepage anyways. So until then, see you guys.